Hey, you little mermaid, stinker poo. We're going to read the next chapter of Escape to Mars. This is the book I wrote for your mom and your Uncle Ben. We're on chapter 5. Now this one has a little note at the beginning. Note from Mrs. Gabrielle Chen. If you don't remember, that's Billy's mom. The children have borne up under the stress remarkably well up to this point, but the weight of the responsibility that has been placed upon them and the fear of the task became too much for them to bear, which is why I sent them down with paper and pen to chronicle their adventure for posterity, if, that is, there was going to be any posterity. The narrative up to this point was written in that small conference room at the Kennedy Space Center. The following narrative was written some 3 days later. I think this is Billy. If you had any conception of how much junk you've got to put on a spaceship to have a ghost of a chance of living on Mars, you wouldn't believe what I'm about to tell you. But here goes. Somehow, Dr. MacGyver's managed to get it all on there, or certainly more than any of us thought possible. Acres and acres of gadgets and plants and machines and little tractors and cages with pairs of critters. Gosh, it was your dad's garage and a zoo and a garden and a museum, all packed into a place no bigger than the lunchroom at school. I could have wandered around in that cargo bay forever and never looked at the same thing twice. This took a pile of men, of course. An army of fellows in those head-to-toe orange suits with the big pockets on their legs came charging in, and they were busier than a hive of bees and a colony of ants on red alert. I remember the talk about getting the bureaucracy involved to get the job done, but I didn't know what a bureaucracy was. Now I do, and let me tell you, it can get the work done. If I could have hung around among those men a little while, I'd have stretched my vocabulary a yard or two at least. Mom always says she's up for educational opportunities, but this time she shoved Amber and me aside. We were in the way, she said, so she sat us down with some paper to make up the first part of the story. It didn't take long before we started getting tired, and I was a little irritable with Mom's writing assignment, so we thought it might be wise to slip away for a few minutes. You might think it's hard for two children to be inconspicuous at a high-powered setup like that Space Center place, but nobody seemed to think it was their business to give us what for. We wandered around a little bit for a while, and then we got hungry, so we hunted up one of those vending machine food courts. Between us we had 5 nickels and 3 dimes, which was enough for 1 candy bar. That made for an easy decision, since only the Reese's Cups and the Kit Kats could be divided easily, and Amber hated Kit Kats. We found a nice spot where Amber could sit in the grass and watch the breeze blow the palm trees along the shores of the Banana River. And I chased a couple of them little lizards that are all over the place in Florida. But the long day took its toll, and we both fell sound asleep on the mulch behind a couple bushes. We both jumped right out of our skin the next morning when we heard a deafening roar. I thought we were dead for sure, and I went paler than a ghost, and Amber too. Like a pair of blamed fools, we'd given Noah the slip and missed the ark, and all for the sake of a Reese's Cup and one last view of the river. That roar was the X-2000 shipping out to Mars, we figured, and we had nothing to look forward to but sitting on the skin of the apple while that black hole worm thing ate it right out from under us. Amber and I started shaking. We ran around in circles and screamed and cried and took swings at each other and then plopped down on the ground and tried our best to drown our miserable doomed planet in our tears. I guess it's better this way, I said. We belong on Earth after all, and I guess it's better to die here at home. That was complete rot. I didn't mean a word of it, which became obvious a moment later when Amber spied the X-2000 still crouching there on the launch pad, and we tore off for her faster than any two kids have ever run since the creation. I generally knew the way back, but that army of orange fellas had finished loading up the spaceship, and now they were everywhere. Yesterday, nobody paid us any mind, but today, they were after us big time. We gave them the slip more than once, but we kept getting off course for the X-2000, and finally we shied up in the dark corner of somebody's office. It's no good, Amber, I whispered. We can't dodge the whole posse. How will we ever get back to the ship? We have to try, Billy, she said. But I can't run right now. Let's sneak along as quiet as we can to get our breath back, and if they see us, we'll make a last dash. It was a good deal better than sitting there while Mom and Dad blasted off without us, so we worked our way along for a minute or two, but the chase started again before either of us were really ready to run hard. We gave it a shot, but there was a long stretch of pavement we had to cover with nowhere to hide and no twists and turns, where a kid can get his only advantage over grown-ups. Strong hands wrapped us up, and after struggling for a minute, we both went just limp and started bawling again. That black hole thing was going to get us, and we'd never see our folks again. I guess we'd forgotten all about Moses. Dr. MacGyver's. Apparently, he ran these orange guys like a puppeteer, and he wanted us on that ship. So as soon as we quit crying long enough to notice what was going on, we were heading up the gantry elevator to the X-2000. I don't need to tell you that our folks were ready to kill us on the spot when we showed up, breathless, sweaty, and red-eyed 10 minutes before launch. Fortunately, there was no time for a proper whipping. They had to wrap us up in our space gear and then clip all kinds of wires and tubes and gizmos here and there, which I'd rather not describe since it's none of your business. Some NASA doctor guy was screaming at anybody who would listen that they had to scrub the launch, that there was no way he could wire us up just the way he wanted, and what in the world were we doing here anyway? But Dr. MacGyver's, who must have dug up Moses' staff from the way everybody hung to his every word, anyway, he wouldn't hear a contrary word, and calmly insisted that the launch was going to happen whether the doctor was ready or not. Why they all listened to that MacGyver's chap, I never found out. And that's the way it happened. Right bang on schedule, that great big bomb with a spaceship strapped onto it, side blew right... Let me read that again. Right bang on schedule, that great big bomb with a spaceship strapped on the side blew us right off the planet. I thought I'd been scared when we reckoned we'd missed the flight, but that was nothing compared to takeoff. My teeth and bones were rattling inside me, and I thought my innards were going to turn to jello. Whatever fate awaited me on Earth, I couldn't imagine that this was much better. Riding all this way to Mars like this would kill me sure as any planet-eating black hole. But after a while, the intolerable noise and rattling and thunder and shaking started to wear off, and after a bit more, the ride smoothed out altogether, which was just in time for those things that doctor hooked onto me. Once I got used to the peace and quiet, I tried to find my mom to see if everything was okay. And as I looked around the ship, I noticed something. There was Mom and Dad and Amber's dad. Then there was one more man and two more women and Amber and me. I got a lump in my throat the size of Texas. All right, that's the end of Billy's chapter. That was chapter 5. Hope you're enjoying the story, Gracie Poo.